Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to an alternate timeline of Random Trek. I am your captain, Christopher Ingle, and I have escaped the transporter buffer. Unfortunately, Q shenanigans have ensued, and now we are in an alternate universe, but I am not alone. I am joined by my trusty first officer, the man who is not guilty of killing lots and lots and lots of species, Brennan the Mystical Mar. Brennan, what do we think of this alternate timeline?
Well, you're actually not speaking to Brennan. You're speaking to my alter ego, Salty Brennan, which is the alternate version of myself.
It's like Mirror Universe.
Yes, though I do not have a goatee, unfortunately.
I've tried growing them. They're awful.
Yeah.
Yes, today we are looking at season 2, episode 2 of Picard, Star Trek Picard, Penance. And this is the one that was introducing kind of the plot of Q messing with things again, and kind of got us in here. Brennan, don't we love our visits with Q?
John Delancey is a delight. He just is.
Mm-hmm.
He shows up in anything. I hear his voice in video games. It's like, oh, we're in for a treat.
Yeah. It's really enjoyable. Let's get into what happened, and let's talk about the things we like about this season, because this season is
Controversial.
it's weird. This season is weird, but I will say this episode not too bad.
Mm-hmm.
So we open up with Picard talking with Q, learning that he and his friends are now in an alternate timeline. In the last episode, there was an explosion aboard the Stargazer.
Mm-hmm.
Something happened. They're not sure what happened, but Q sent him back to Le Bar, France. But we find it's an alternate timeline. In this timeline, Picard and all his friends know they are in an alternate timeline, but everyone else is unaware of it. Humanity has formed a more xenophobic, what they call the Confederation. There was no federation. It's the Confederation of Earth, very similar to the Mirror Universe. And essentially their job is to systematically destroy or enslave alien races. Picard is considered the Confederation's greatest military leader, and has been granted the honor of executing the last Borg Queen by President Annika Hansen, 7 of 9, she's president of the Federation and is married to the chief magistrate. So the group reunite, and we learn from this Borg Queen played by Annie Wersching, and we're going to talk a lot about Annie Wersching.
We love Annie Wersching.
That they can prevent the Confederation's formation by going back in time to Los Angeles in 2024.
Gee.
But they can only do it with the Borg Queen's help. So Girardi, Raffi, and Elnor take control of a communication and transport systems in the headquarters, while Seven and Picard try to buy time at this public execution. So as the crowd and the magistrate kind of get agitated with the stalling, everyone else manages to complete their objectives. Picard, Seven, Girardi, Raffi, Elnor, and the Queen are beamed aboard La Serena. They are trying to prepare for time travel when the magistrate and the security officers beam aboard and kill Elnor, and then prepare to execute everyone else.
Not our boy Elnor.
Not Elnor. We like Elnor.
We love Elnor.
But that is the end of this episode. Brendan, I want to talk about first the connections that this has to other Trek, because that opening sequence inside the Picard Manor really shocked me. So there is a scene where Q is walking with him through the manor, and we get to his study, and inside his study are his trophies.
Yeah, skulls of fallen enemies.
His trophies are the skulls of fallen enemies. Yes.
Including...
Go ahead.
Unfortunately, we get Sarek. Martok.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Gul Dukat.
Gold Dukat, though I don't feel as bad about that.
Eh.
I don't feel as bad about Gold Dukat being dead.
Mm-hmm. A Ferengi, which I
Yeah, a
assumed
Ferengi.
was the Megas. I would have thought it was the Grand Negus. That's
It
just me.
probably was.
Mm-hmm. A Saurian
Oh, yes,
and a
Linus.
Borg. There was a Borg as well. But how shocking was that to see these skulls as trophies and Sarek, Martok. I mean, these
Hmm.
powerhouses of good. And Martok, who, indirectly is an ally of Picard.
Yes.
You know, it just shocked me, even when I rewatched it, to see this here and the kind of man that this Picard really
Yeah,
is.
and brutal, violent,
Mm-hmm.
dictatorial.
It's nuts.
Yeah, it is.
Absolute crazy. And I thought, Q was going nuts.
Hmm.
This is just great. And what I love about this is we don't really know still at this point what's going on.
Yeah,
We have no
it's a
idea. And
mystery. Yeah.
and just like Best of Both Worlds, we know Q has something to do with it,
Yeah.
but we don't know to what extent. And I love that mystery part of it. What is Q's purpose in this? What is he trying to do? And spoiler alert, it's all about a lesson for Picard. The
Just
the, the
George still
trial
hasn't learned his lesson.
the trial never
The
ends.
trial never ends.
And so this is that for him. And we've talked about the ending of this season when we found out that he was dying
Hmm.
and that this is his farewell, his send
Or
off.
was he? Dun, dun, dun.
Well, timey-wimey.
We'll get
Timey-wimey.
there. We'll get there
Yeah.
in
Because
season three.
I think we talked about that one too.
We'll get there in
Timey,
the coda for season three.
right. But he even tells Jack, you humans,
We think
everything
in
is
such,
such
yeah.
linear terms. I figured it was timey-wimey, but I absolutely love John Delancey's introduction in this, and it's
Oh yeah.
dark, it's twisted,
Oh
and
yeah.
he comes off as a very menacing villain again,
Mm.
the way he was in the beginning. And I love that so much. What did you think?
I mean, John Delancey can do no wrong,
Mm-hmm.
and having him show up, older John Delancey looks great. By the way, he still looks fantastic.
I loved the de-aging actually,
The de-aging, yeah, that was good.
even for a brief moment, that was good.
And of course, I mean, Q and Picard are like the bread and butter of Star Trek.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's always fun to have the two of them together.
Now, what do we think of this alternate reality where,
Ooh.
this dystopia?
I mean, we've
You know,
seen these kind of things before in Star Trek,
mm-hmm,
like the mirror universe and other things like that.
mm-hmm.
Um, and I'm surprised they didn't do the mirror universe, but I think that this makes another interesting, almost like Q is borrowing from the mirror universe
Mm-hmm.
in constructing this artificial reality. And of course, seeing that, like, 709 is
Yeah.
president, and Picard is supposedly this brutal killer.
Mm-hmm.
Girardi is this scientist that creates all kinds of talking to Cat and Oswald on her computer as a cat or whatever he is. Um, and really interesting to see kind of this is what that world is like, and obviously things like Rossi is like a police chief, basically.
Yeah.
That's like their version of the KGB.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting to see kind of what all these roles that they're in. But it is, I'm surprised they didn't just do the mirror universe. But I do like this timeline in yet another great fascist dictatorship.
Well, I think it's this idea Instead of using the mirror universe,
Hmm.
we get a little timey-wimey and show how important Picard actually is.
And as we learn, how important his ancestor is.
Hmm. Right. I mean, the one of the quotes he is, start, Picard tells him, "I'm no longer your pawn." Q says, "Oh, you undersell yourself, Jean-Luc. You're more than just a piece. Why, you're the very board." He sets it up for us. You are the
Mm,
board in which this game is played. Q, I'm too old for this BS. We get a swear out of Picard, our villain
mm,
this season. Oh yes, how unfair time is. So many wrinkles, so many disappointments. But remember, we have seen these themes with him before. Regret. Do you have any regrets when Picard dies of the artificial heart failing? And he's,
mm.
how many regrets do you have?
Yeah.
And we see those limits. Or
Tapestry. Yeah.
yeah, it's all about Picard and what Picard can and can't do. And so the idea that, of course, this series is called Picard for it to focus on him, but we don't get the full understanding of what he is trying to do until the end of the series, the end of the
Hmm.
season, was really well done. I was
Yes.
impressed. And
Yes.
then one final one that I really love here as Q is setting it up is that Q is not the enemy, even though he's coming off very antagonistic.
Yeah.
You want me to cut to the chase? Picard says, yes. Well, the chase is cut, Picard. The chase is bleeding. The chase is dying in your arms. But I am a suture in the wound. Who is
Interesting.
trying to help him, and he doesn't understand that he's
Yep.
being, mysterious as he always is.
Hmm.
And that's what's great about this. That's what's absolutely fabulous about this is, again, the star is that rapport between the two of them. But I also really love how the others take on their roles so well,
Ah, yes.
their alternate roles.
I
Annika.
mean, I don't know. If 709 is my president, I'd be happy.
Hmm.
I mean, no real world implications.
Hmm. But these true, well, I'm not going to call it the soul star,
Hmm.
but the 1-2 combination of Annie Wershing as the Borg Queen,
Yes.
and of course, eventually, Alison Pill as Agnes
Yep.
Girardi,
Yep.
because that plays into it so well.
Oh, very
But
much.
um, Annie Wershing is so
Yeah.
good as the
The
Borg
late Annie
Queen.
Werching, who was terrific in
Yes.
this.
Mm-hmm. This was her first appearance as the Borg Queen, and she's the Borg Queen throughout the entire season until events
Yeah, and
occur.
passed
And
away before the final episode. Yeah.
well, yes, she did. And I'm sad about that because I would love to have more from this Borg Queen. This
Yeah.
was a terrifying Borg Queen. In
And the
fact,
idea of making a deal with the devil, kind of like what Janeway had to do in
mhm,
Voyager.
I'm so surprised too that we had this Borg Queen, and then in season 3, when we had the finale, we actually got Alice Krieg again, which I'm
Hmm.
never opposed to Alice Krieg. She's
Oh,
very
yeah.
scary,
Oh, yeah.
but I would have thought, if they had the chance, I'm sure they would have went with Annie Wershing instead
Hmm.
because she was really building into that, and
Yeah.
I do
Yeah.
enjoy.
But I mean, the fact that they are like, we know we can't trust the Borg Queen, but we need her.
Mm-hmm. Oh
You
yeah.
know, the deal with the devil.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Now, what do we think of this alternate world in of itself? This scary alternate reality where you're right, it does remind me of what is it, In a Mirror Darkly? Um,
Yeah.
where we see much more of this world that is so dark and convoluted, and how one person going sets off a domino that allows us to eventually get to first contact. And, there are things that go in that way that
Yeah.
lead us to doing what we do.
Yeah. And that
I,
moment of divergence in the
mhm,
Mirror Universe when Mirror Zephyrin Cochrane kills the Vulcans.
Mm-hmm.
But since this isn't the mirror universe, I think it's an interesting. The planet is dying. Only like basically on life support. Earth is on life support.
Yeah.
And it's this fascist dictatorship, and it's all these dominoes of, as we learn later in the season, that if Picard's ancestor does not complete her mission, this is what will happen,
Mm-hmm.
or what could happen.
Yeah. And it has greater implications. This understanding of one's emotions and how we deal with it,
Hmm.
and that Picard's actions are far more important. And when we think about too the emotions that build in this season of his ancestor, he's got to help her get through
Yeah,
her anxieties and make the trip. And yet the whole point of Q being here is Picard's anxieties.
yeah. It's almost
Is
like his ancestors' anxieties are his anxieties.
mm-hmm. This is a really good. It's the second episode, but
Yeah,
this is does such a good job of being a mystery, but setting up for us what is to come for what is not exactly a great season,
yeah,
but it sets up characters that we love, especially the Borg Queen. Like
yes,
I said, the Borg Queen and Girardi both are a 1-2 act that are amazing in this season.
yep. And of
They're
course, I mean, anytime we get more of Michelle Hurd as Raffi,
mm-hmm.
I'm happy.
Yeah. Yep.
Because
Yep.
we love Michelle Hurd.
And I am really happy for us for Jerry Ryan, who got to play
Yes.
Seven and didn't have to use the implants this season.
Yeah, and of course, I mean, Jerry Ryan is a goddess, if you ask me, but
Oh, she's so good as the president.
she really is. And I think that one of the things about the character of Seven is that Seven of Nine, I think the audience underestimated her when she was first introduced
Mm-hmm.
on Voyager because all they saw was this very pretty young lady in a tight-fitting bodysuit,
Right.
which costume they wouldn't have used nowadays.
Very true.
But we see that Seven of Nine is one of the greatest Star Trek characters.
Mm-hmm.
And even though she's very pretty, her acting is really where it's at.
Mm-hmm.
And she really gets to shine in this show.
She does. And now we can't leave out even though we don't get a lot of him as much in this episode, Rios.
Oh, we love Rios.
I love
We
Rios
love Rios.
so much. And of course he's captain of the La Serena, but in the episode prior to this, we see him as the captain of the Stargazer.
Yes.
Stargazer of all ships. That's what we get is an updated Stargazer, which that was nice too, with a Sagan
Yes.
class ship. Um,
Santiago Cabrera is amazing.
I love him,
He
and
is so charismatic.
I was very sad to see the way this season turned out for him.
Yeah, I mean, but he does end up having some important interactions
He does, that's true.
with a little boy who will grow up to discover things that can help save Earth.
Mm-hmm. Lot of great things to
Yeah, oh
come.
yeah.
But Cristobal, I love him in here and his reactions too with the La Serena and the fake cigar. I always love the fake
Mm-hmm.
cigar. It's just crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But all of it, everybody coming in. This really is a great episode. And I would say probably one of the top 2 or 3 of this season.
Yeah, I think I'd agree.
This season suffers from a lack of direction. It doesn't quite know where it wants to
I
go.
think it's really season 3 is really where they knew where they were going, I think.
Oh, season 3 was great. They gave us everything we asked for and then some.
And more.
Here, I think they wanted to do something and they didn't know what to do. They didn't know what they had. And you can kind of tell because with the ending of it with the Borg ship joining the Federation and you're like, wait, what?
And then you get to season 3 and none of that is
None
there.
of that matters. None of that kicks in. I was like, what? Wait, what?
Yeah, it
I
was
would have been
weird.
happier if this anomaly that's kicked off the entire thing, actually had some consequences. But in reality, this season is a very Doctor Who inspired thing,
Yeah,
very timey-wimey. But it's all about Picard. That's what this all is about in the end.
yeah. I
And they do
think
a good job of hiding it, but they still don't have the direction enough for us to go, oh, I see what they're doing.
I think my headcanon is Girardi's Borg were just one faction of Borg.
That's possible, but then when we're
But I think I
dealing
do
with a
agree with
Borg,
you. Yeah.
wouldn't you have consulted your Borg expert when you discovered what was going down? Just saying.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think you're right.
Yeah. But otherwise, this is a good episode. It's a
Hmm.
good shock value. It's not a mirror universe episode. It's funny.
And of course, it reintroduces our favorite idea of the slingshot effect,
Yes. Yep, the
which
little slingshot.
makes no sense, but whatever.
But we're gonna kill Elnor. That's the other downside. We're gonna
Oh
be
yeah,
killing off
that's
Elnor.
that's a shame because
They didn't
Elnor
use
is a
him.
great character.
Yeah, he got into Starfleet Academy, and I was so proud of
I loved
him.
his brutal honesty about everything.
Yes, Quatmalot, and then they killed him.
Yep, absolute
Uh,
candor.
Final thoughts on this episode.
This I think I agree. This is one of the best of the season two.
Hmm.
It felt, I mean, I'm glad, even though season one and two were controversial and maybe not the best, they certainly paved the way to one of the best seasons of Star Trek.
Hmm.
But as far as this one setting up the events of season two, setting up the story, I love it.
Yeah,
I really
it,
do.
it does a good job keeping you guessing. You don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. And of course, just anytime we see a fascist
Mhm.
dictatorship in science fiction,
Yeah,
I have a morbid fascination with it.
yeah. Oh, I love
Even though,
dystopian
of course, we
stories.
wouldn't want it to happen in real life,
Right.
but it does make for good storytelling.
Mhm. All
So I
right.
say watch it. I say this
I
is one to watch.
I think so too. Yeah, treat it the way I see it. Treat it as a mirror universe episode,
Hmm.
and I think you'll be fine with it. It's fun.
Yep.
And you get to see Annie Wershing start her thing. And I enjoy that.
Yes.
All right. Well, so we had a little bit of switcheroos and stuff for the last few
Speaking
weeks.
of anomalies,
So, we will be releasing this week as well our review of Explorers, as promised. We just had to delay
hmm.
on that. But next week we start the cycle all over again, and we
Ooh, let's.
go back to Enterprise. We go to Enterprise.
Okay, hang on.
But
Let me
I
get
do have
ready.
some good news before I hit the randomizer.
Oh, yes.
Your captain in his waiting was getting transmissions from Netflix in the 21st century
Mhm.
and has completed season 2 of Star Trek Prodigy.
Yes, I'm watching it right now.
So Star Trek Prodigy season 2 will be included in our randomizer as we go through it. So season 2 episodes will come up. So just warning you for the months ahead that if it does come up, spoiler alert, we understand it's new, but we
And
forgive
I've
you.
heard nothing but good things. I'm
Oh, it's
only a few
great.
episodes in, so
It's Star Trek Voyager 2.0. This is
oh, good.
I love it. It's so good. They're on the Voyager. What do you
Well, the
expect?
the fact that the Doctor is on the show makes me really happy.
Yeah, yeah, but he will not be the only one.
And
How far
I
how
would
many
like.
episodes are you in?
I'm only 5 episodes in.
So you don't know about our
Yeah,
mystery
no,
benefactor.
I don't know.
I won't tell you who the mystery benefactor is,
But
but
I may get the chance to actually meet Robert Picardo
yes.
in a couple of weeks.
Yes, I would love to get Robert Picardo on one of our shows. Wouldn't that be great if like we did Virtuoso or a very
Mm,
Doctor Tinker Tenor Doctor Spy, something like that, very doctor oriented, and we got Robert Picardo to interview. How great!
it would be. It would be.
We won't be able to, but I'd like to try.
Yeah.
All right, so let's hit the randomizer and see what episode of Star Trek Enterprise. We're gonna take a look back.
Wheel of morality, turn.
Turn. All right, let's see what we got here. Season 3.
Okay.
Season 3 of Enterprise. Looks like
Mm,
the episode Impulse.
okay.
Let's see. Which one is Impulse?
This is the
There we go.
Xindi arc.
Yeah, it is during the Xindi arc. It is the 5th episode of the season.
Oh yeah, I remember this episode. Yes.
Yeah.
This was a very interesting episode.
Oh, this is the Trillium.
Yeah.
This is where we're introduced to the results of the Trillium and what happens. Okay.
Yeah. I remember
This
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 episode,
is going
yeah.
to be interesting. It's a good one. You know what? All of season 3, all
Yeah,
of season
season
3,
three and most of season 4 are really
really
good.
good. Yeah. So we'll take a look at Impulse, and then the week after that, we will be taking a look at our August movie, or excuse me, our July movie for its
Yeah.
birthday. Its 30th birthday,
30th.
40th birthday. The
Yes.
Last Starfighter.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
Last Starfighter. And I'm really excited because we are going to be joined by the host of the And I Quote podcast, Ryan Permison, who
Mhm.
he is also reviewing this movie as well. So we thought it a fun crossover to bring our two together and talk about this classic that is not treated as a classic, but it should be.
It should be. I agree.
Absolutely should be. So that is what's coming this month. Brennan, where can the people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Brennan Mystical. You can find me on Instagram and Threads at Brennan Blue. You can follow this podcast on Page Turners They Were Not on YouTube, Apple, Google, and Spotify.
And you can find me on Twitch and Twitter at cingle1984. But as always, we end every episode. Applaw and live long and prosper.
Peace and long life.